Good morning, students. Now today we shall take a lecture on immunity. This is very important, particularly in the perspective of what is going on throughout the world, that is the coronavirus infection. We must give our attention to the immunity, because this is the thing which will prevent us from getting infected by the deadly virus. Now, as per definition, immunity is a mechanism or the property of the biological system by which we can prevent the invasion of our system by any foreign substance or non-self substance. The substance which is non-self, not mine, foreign one. So, the mechanism by which the entry of that foreign substance into our system is prevented, or if it manages to enter, how it is neutralized or inactivated is known as the immunity. Now, classification. If the immunity is taken into account, it is broadly classified into two parts. One is the natural, also known as innate, and another is the acquired, also known as adaptive. So the classification of the immunity is natural or innate and acquired or adaptive. Now we shall talk about the natural or innate one first. What is natural or innate? It is present since our birth. We get it from our mother, and that protects us or that protects the baby initially when the baby is exposed to this world full of microbial agents. And these innate immunity can be of different types. So innate means present since birth or inborn immunity. Now, this natural or innate immunity, it includes the following things. Number one, neutrophils, monocyte macrophage system, monocyte macrophages, skin, then the gastric HCl, lysozymes, enzymes, and the most important one I am writing over here, that is from here to here, is NK cells. NK means natural killer. Natural killer. Now, if I describe these things in a nutshell, you know it quite well from your class 2 level knowledge, that the neutrophils and the monocytes, the subject is born with the neutrophils and the monocyte. Neutrophils are known as the microphages, and the monocyte macrophage systems are known as the macrophages. And the skin protects us from the numerous microorganisms present in this world. They cannot enter our body. And the gastric HCl is very, very important, because if we ingest along with food any microorganism, it is immediately destroyed by the hydrochloric acid present in the stomach. And the lysozymes are the enzymes which are present different bodily secretion except the urine and the sweat, which kills the microorganisms. And the last but not the least, which is very very important, is the natural killer cell, which is a variety of lymphocyte, and that kills the viruses entering into our body, that kills the fungi entering into our body, and that also kills the tumor cells which may develop in our body throughout our life. So the significance of the natural killer cell is very very important. I will discuss this later on. So that is the concept of innate immunity. That means this innate immunity saves the child right from the birth until unless acquired immunity comes into the picture. So that is about the innate immunity, different varieties. Now apart from all these things which are mentioned under the category of innate immunity, two important things must be mentioned which should also be included in the innate category. What is that? They are inflammation and number two, immune surveillance. So inflammation and the immune surveillance, these two are also included in the innate category. Now the inflammation, you know quite well, whenever there is any stimulus applied to our biological system, either from the external source or from the internal source, then what happens? The part where the stimulus is applied, the stimulus may be mechanical, the stimulus may be chemical, the stimulus may be electrical, even the stimulus may be microbial. That is an organism which has invaded the body and affected any of the organs inside our body. There will be manifestation of the body's response to that stimulus, and the constellation of the manifestations are together known as inflammations. And in inflammation, what happens? What are the features of inflammation? The four things are characteristics of inflammation. Four things. Number one, swelling of the part. Number two, redness of the part. Number three, hotness of the part. And number four, pain. These are the four classical manifestations of inflammation whatsoever in our body. One is the swelling of the part, also known as tumor, American spelling T-U-M-O-R, tumor. Redness is the rubor. Hotness is the calor from calorie, and pain is the dolor. These all are Latin terminologies which are used to describe what are the four classical manifestations of inflammation. One is the swelling, tumor, redness, rubor, hotness, calor, and pain is the dolor. So tumor, rubor, calor, dolor. These are the four manifestations of inflammation whatsoever in our body, whatever may be the stimulus. Am I clear? So these are due to the vasodilatation taking place locally as a response to the stimulus given. Say for example, if there is any striking on any part of your person, and you will see immediately there will be swelling of that part, redness of that part, there will be hotness of that part, and you will feel pain from the part. That means the inflammation has taken place into that part, and that inflammation is obviously a part and parcel of the innate immunity, because it alerts the subject that something has happened over there, you please take necessary steps. So that must be innate. That must be innate. The person is born with that mechanism to respond to any stimulus whatsoever which may be potentially damaging to the person's body. Is this clear? Okay. Now, that is the inflammation, which is a part and parcel of the innate immunity. Then the second one comes the immune surveillance. This terminology is a bit difficult for you, but still I will make it clear as far as practicable. Immune surveillance means the immune cells in our body, right from the neutrophil, right from the monocyte macrophage system, right from the different varieties of lymphocytes, they are always hovering in our circulation or in the tissues to see whether there is any defect in the tissue or the organ. Is the tissue growing normally in correct direction? Is the tissue is in normal size? Is the function of the tissue is normal? Whatever it may be, this is monitored by the different immunological cells, of which the most important, as I told you, is the natural killer cells. The other immune cells are also important in the surveillance, but the NK cells, they are very, very active. They are non-specific. That means whatever may be the type of foreign body entering into our body, or whatever may be the foreign substances developed within our body, say for example the tumor cells, the NK cells goes immediately to that area and kills the tumor cell immediately. That means throughout our life there is always a tendency of development of tumor cells from different organs, and they are monitored by the immune cells, particularly the natural killer cells, which non-specifically destroys the tumor cells. The non-specifically destroyed the tumor cells goes towards the tumor cells and kills it. Say for example, if this is the tumor cell, then the NK cell goes directly to the tumor cell to kill it, without any specificity of the tumor cell. Whatever may be the type of tumor, whatever may be the type of organ from which the tumor is arising, it will be killed immediately by the natural killer cells. Now, if this fails, that is the natural killer cell, if cannot detect the tumor cell, or if the tumor cell is capable of hiding itself or themselves from the surveillance of the natural killer cells, then there is development of the tumor of the any organ whatsoever in our biological system. So this is known as the immune escape. Some of the tumors may escape the surveillance of our body, particularly the surveillance of the NK cells, known as immune escape. And whenever this phenomenon occurs, the person or the patient develops the tumor cell or the tumor of that particular organ. Am I clear? This thing is clear. So that is all about the innate immunity. And one important thing is that for the development of the innate immunity, the body's immune system does not participate actively in the development of the immunity. It is present automatically, naturally, since birth. It is a gift to us by the nature, innate immunity. But the second variety is once again very, very important. That is the acquired immunity or adaptive. The very name suggests that the person acquires it in his life, that is after the birth or throughout his life. So that is the acquired immunity. What is the characteristics of the acquired immunity? Acquired immunity may be once again of two types. Let me say first that acquired immunity once again of two types. One is the active, another is the passive. Active and the passive. Now, whenever the active acquired immunity is there, as the name suggests, it is developed as a result of the reaction of the body's immune response to the foreign substance. Reaction of the body's immune response to the foreign substance, and as a result of which there is development of a number of immunocompetent cells, B lymphocytes, T lymphocytes, and their different varieties, and as a result of which there is inactivation of the entered foreign substance. Is this clear? And in the passive immunity, though it is acquired, here the body's immune response or the body's immune system does not actively participate in the development of the immunity, but still it is acquired because it is given from somewhere else. The immunity is developed in somebody's body, and from there it is given to the patient's biological system. So here the patient's biological system does not participate actively in the production of immunity. That's why it is passive. But it is acquired, no doubt about it, because it is not present since birth. It is not innate. So that's why it is acquired. Is this clear? Is this concept clear? Now we shall talk about the active immunity. Active immunity, as I told you earlier, active immunity has got two important features. One is it acts against the foreign antigen. Foreign antigen or the foreign invader. We call it antigen. I am going to the antigen just now. Foreign antigen. And second one, there is development of immunological memory. Immunological memory. So two important things characterize the active immunity. One is there must be a foreign antigen against which the body's immune system will act actively. Body's immune system will act actively, and that's why it is active. And second one, there will be development of immunological memory against that particular antigen, so that whenever the antigen will try to enter that biological system for the second time, it will be immediately neutralized by the immunocompetent cells already developed during the first invasion. Is this clear to you? And that's why there is necessity of development of the memory cells, so that it can identify the foreign antigen and takes the necessary steps to kill it. Clear? Now let us see what are antigens. What do you mean by antigens? You must have an idea regarding antigens. What are antigens? No, these are the protein substances. Antigens are protein in nature. Basically or classically, they are protein in nature. Most of the antigens in the nature are protein in nature, but there may be some antigens which may be lipid or complex carbohydrate like polysaccharides. Yes, for example, the blood group antigens, they are polysaccharides. acting as antigens. As a classical example that the blood group antigens are polysaccharides, not proteins, still they behave as antigens. However, that is an exception, and exception proves the rule. So, antigens, what are antigens? They are basically proteins. Antigens are basically proteins, or maybe fat or carb, that is carbohydrate. Really, what is the characteristics of the antigens? The antigens are non-self, that is, in which biological system it is entering, the system is not endowed with that particular antigen before. So it is a foreigner, it is a newcomer to the subject's body, so that, and it is protein in nature, so that the body can react against it. So the most of the antigens are protein in nature, though carbohydrate, complex carbohydrates and the fat may act as antigen. I am going to that part later on. But what are the properties of antigen? Now the antigen is a protein molecule. So for example, this is an antigen, which is a protein molecule having different surface regions. You see, there is a variation in the surface regions, and these surface regions are known as determinant sites or epitopes. Epitope, E-P-I-T-O-P-E, epitope, also known as determinant site. কি determine করছে? Specificity of the antigen. Determinant site. What do they determine? They determine the specificity of the antigen, and there may be a variation in the different epitopes in a single antigen molecule, and I have shown that. Say for example, this is one epitope, there is another epitope different in size or different in configuration, this is another epitope different in configuration, another epitope different in configuration. So in the same antigen molecule there may be different epitopes, and each and every epitope is specific in developing the corresponding antibody whenever introduced into a biological system. So these epitopes are very, very important. They are specific and they can develop antibody against the particular epitope or the determinant site. And each molecule of antigen can have numerous epitopes, and they will develop corresponding antibodies which will be different in nature. That is, the immunoglobulins which they will develop will be different in nature. That is, for these there will be one immunoglobulin, for these there will be another immunoglobulin, so on and so forth. So that is the characteristics of an antigen. Now at times what happens, that there are some non-protein substances like fat or complex carbohydrates, they may behave as antigens. Very, very important. Now normally what happens, that each and every antigen molecule must have a complexity in their structure. So they will have a complexity in their structure like this. There will not be a simple structure. Each and every antigen, here I have shown just by a circle, but normally the antigens which is capable of producing immune reaction or response, they must be complex chemically in structure. Simple structures having antigenic property, they usually do not evoke any immune response. For example, nylon, Teflon. If you go to the surgical department, you will see that they are using this nylon and Teflon for suturing purpose, with this idea that this nylon and Teflon, in spite of being a larger molecule, is lacking in complexity. They are very simple molecules, though they are large, but they are very simple molecules. And as a result of their simplicity, they are not capable of evoking any immune reaction in the patient's body. And that's why the surgeons use this nylon and Teflon as the suturing material. Am I clear? So, any antigen, whatsoever it may be, must have a complex chemical structure. Until and unless that complexity is present, there will be no production of immune response. Clear? This thing is clear. Now let us see when this fat and carbohydrate may act as the antigen, or whenever they act as antigen, they take a new name known as hapten. Hapten is the brother of antigen, rather, in that sense. Antigen, hapten. And what is hapten? Now, hapten is a non-protein molecule like fat, carb, but it combines with a protein carrier. So, for example, if this be the hapten molecule, or the fat molecule, or the carbohydrate molecule, then it combines with a protein carrier. It combines with a protein carrier, and the whole thing behaves as a complete antigen. So this thing, that is a non-protein substance combined with a protein carrier, behaves as an antigen and evokes the immunological response in biological system. So this is known as hapten. What is the characteristics of the hapten? The characteristics of the hapten is that the immunogenicity is dependent on the proper fat or the carbohydrate portion, but it cannot evoke the immunogenicity on its own. It will have to be combined with a protein carrier to act as hapten. So am I clear what is hapten? So hapten is a non-protein antigen, alone having no immunogenic property, but when combines with a specific protein carrier, it produces immunological response in a biological system. So that is hapten. This is clear? Okay. So the antigen and the hapten portion is clear. There is no problem, I think. Now we will come to the active immunity once again. Active immunity once again. And the active immunity is of two types. One is natural active, another is artificial active. What is natural active? That is, whenever any biological system is invaded by a microorganism or the toxin liberated by the microorganism, then it evokes the immunological response, resulting in the production of immunocompetent cells. that is known as natural active immunity. Then what is artificial active immunity? The artificial, any guess? Artificial active immunity. The artificial active immunity is what is going on right at this moment throughout the world. Even in our institute, it is taking place daily in the Department of Microbiology, in the Department of Community Medicine, and also in our auditorium, for making the people protective against the dreadful coronavirus. So the artificial active immunity is the principle of vaccination. Artificial is the principle of vaccination. So artificial active immunity, why? Because in this vaccination process, we are just introducing the inactivated virus or a part of the virus which is inactivated to the subject's body, and the subject's body produces antibody against that particular virus or the part of the virus, and when the natural infection occurs, then that antibody kills the natural virus. This is the principle of all vaccines in the world. So that is also being applicable in this corona vaccination, because it is now very much pertinent and very much relevant throughout the world. That's why I am talking about this. So the artificial active immunity is the vaccination, right? Here either the viral body itself, inactivated viral body of course, or any part of the viral body, that is the spike protein of the viral body, is being utilized after processing to introduced into the subject's body, and that being acting as an antigen, as I told you earlier, with a complex structure, because there must be in protein, the spike protein, the name suggests, it's a protein in nature, it must be very, very active, and it produces the immunocompetent cells, namely the antibodies against the viral antigen. And whenever the natural infection by the virus will occur, is occurring tremendously throughout the world, then these antibodies, which are already present as a result of artificial active immunity, will protect the subject from the dreadful virus. Is this clear? Okay. Now we will go for another thing. Now, what is immune response related to active immunity? Immune response. Say for example, you have seen that here in most of the cases the vaccines are given in 2 doses. One is the first dose, another is the second dose. As a result of first dose of the modified viral antigen, what is happening? Now there is development of some antibodies against that viral antigen, and that antibody is usually IgM in nature. So the immune response, if you consider the types, it may be divided into primary and secondary. Primary immune response and the secondary immune response. What is the primary immune response? Primary immune response is nothing but the first dose of the vaccine. First dose of the vaccine. Here the modified antigen of the virus is introduced into the subject's body for the first time, and as a result of which, after 3 to 4 days, there is development of some antibody in the plasma, and those antibodies are IgM in nature, immunoglobulin M variety, IgM in nature. Now after a lapse of 6 weeks, previously it was 4 weeks, but the World Health Organization and the Indian Council of Medical Research has suggested that the gap must be 6 to 8 weeks. The reason is over here. The reason is that the second dose, or for the development of the secondary immune response, the second dose must be given right from the 6 to 8 weeks of the first dose, so that the antibody level becomes very, very high, and the type of antibody is changed from IgM to IgG. Very important. This is known as class switch. Class switch. Why? Because someone has switched the class of antibody from the M to G type. And you know quite well that immunoglobulin G is very, very active, very, very powerful, and most of the immunoglobulins in our body belong to the IgG, immunoglobulin G. And that this class switch operates after 6 to 8 weeks, and as a result of which there is development. If the graph is like this, that if this is the graph, the 0, 10 to the power 1, 10 to the power 3 is an arbitrary unit of antibody concentration. Arbitrary unit of antibody concentration in the ordinate, and in the abscissa are just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 weak. Weeks. That is 7 days, 14 days, 21 days, 28 days, 35 days, okay, 42 days. Right? 42 days. Now it is seen, if the first antigen is given over here, for example, this is the first antigen or your so-called first dose. What will happen? After 3 to 4 days, there will be rise of the graph like this, and this is IgM. The IgG also develops, but not so prominent. But after some time, not coinciding with that of the IgM. So that is the introduction of the first antigen, that is the so-called first dose here of the coronavirus. We shall take the example of coronavirus right at this moment because that is most relevant. And if that occurs, the exposure of the first antigen or introduction of the first antigen to the subject's body will cause there is a rise of the immunoglobulin M molecule within 1 to 2 weeks. But after that, it takes a basal level and then raise a very little after 4 to 5 weeks. That is IgM. I am talking about the IgM. That is the fate of IgM whenever you introduce the first dose of the antigen. Now, whenever the second dose of antigen is given over here, second dose of antigen is given over here, 6 weeks. What will happen? So this IgG will come into the picture immediately and will give a very high value. This is IgG. The most powerful immunoglobulin which will fight the coronavirus is immunoglobulin G, and after 6 weeks if it is given, and within 1 to 2 days there will be a sharp rise of antibody titer, it may go up to the 10 to the power 3, 10 to the power 4, 10 to the power 5, the arbitrary units of the antibody concentration given along the ordinate. This is clear. So that is the reason that the second dose must be given after or at 6 weeks, so that we get the secondary immune response. So this is the primary immune response. Primary immune response, and this is the secondary immune response. Secondary immune response, primary immune response and the secondary immune response. Now in secondary immune response, the antibody titer belonging to the IgG, you see here the IgM rises only a few along the ordinate. The concentration is very low. Why? Because the class switch has already operated. Class switch has already operated. The body has converted majority of the immunoglobulins towards the immunoglobulin G, so that it is being the most powerful immunoglobulin in our system that should dominate the scene if any virus comes whatsoever. And after this, so within the introduction of the second dose, within 7 to 14 days, the concentration of antibody, it starts rising after 2 to 3 days, no doubt, but the concentration becomes maximum after 7 to 14 days. After 7 to 14 days, and persists for a prolonged time. Am I clear? So if we compare the primary immune response and the secondary immune response, why I am discussing this so vividly? Because it is the need of the hour. You must know right from your first year that what is the basis of this vaccination. Any vaccination whatsoever in the world, that is the basis of vaccination. You have seen that in polio doses, they are giving repeated doses. The polio first, second, third, fourth, fifth. BCG, single dose vaccine, of course, it's not requiring any secondary boosting. But there are so many, that is the diphtheria, pertussis, tetanus, they are given in second dose, third dose. These are called the booster doses. Why? Because these booster doses are nothing but producing secondary immune response. Now if after that, if you give another antigenic exposure, that will be a tertiary immune response, increasing the level of the antibody much more. So if after the second dose, a person becomes infected with a coronavirus, what will happen? That there will be boosting of the existing immune response, because that is the tertiary immune response, which will increase the concentration of immunoglobulin G further, and thereby will help in the neutralization of the virus. This is clear. Now let us summarize what are the basic differences between the primary immune response and the secondary immune response. You just note it down. In the primary immune response, the immunoglobulin is IgM, and the secondary immune response, it is IgG. The lag period means that the introduction of the antigen to the development of the antibody is much shorter in secondary immune response, only 1 to 3 days. Here it is 4 to 6 weeks, primary immune response. So the lag period is shorter. Number 2. So the number 1 point is Ig immunoglobulin. Number 2 is the lag period. That is the introduction of the antigen, gap between the introduction of the antigen and the development of the antibody. Number 3, the concentration of the antibody in the secondary immune response is very, very high compared to the primary immune response. Not only that, the persistence of the antibody in the serum is for a longer period, so that it will give protection to the subject for a longer period. That is the third point. What is the fourth point? Fourth point is very, very important, that after the primary immune response, if there is interaction of the second dose of the vaccine, then what will happen? By this time, if the subject becomes infected with the virus, that virus will act as the second dose of the vaccine. That is the natural immunity, as I told you earlier. Natural active immunity, where the microorganisms are entering directly into the body and thereby provoking the development of the antibody. Why? Because initially the person took a one dose which mimics the structure of the virus. Whatever may be the vaccination, I am not talking about the corona particularly, any virus. So if this be the situation, then the natural infection between the first and second dose should act, should, not must, should act as the second antigen, and that will evoke the secondary immune response. That is, the antibody titer will become high, but that depends upon the immune status of the subject. If the subject is immunocompromised, or if the subject's immune system is disturbed due to some reasons or other, pre-existing any disease, or the subject is getting chemotherapy or immunosuppressive agents, then the secondary immune response will not occur and the subject will be infected by the virus. That is the main cause, because what will be the total basic function of the body's immune system is very difficult to judge from outside. It varies from subject to subject. So that is very, very important. So that is the difference between the primary and the secondary immune response, and you see that this is the principle of vaccination. You may write it down. That is, the primary and the secondary immune response is the principle of all vaccinations. Not only corona, of all vaccination, whatsoever you have got from your childhood. Right? So that's all for today. We will continue in the next class. The same subject we will continue, topic will continue in the next class. Thank you.